Chapter 5 The Sun Also Surprises by Kudzuhaiku. Sighing, Princess Celestia looked at her slumbering sibling and smiled. Luna had fallen asleep at the table, her head resting upon a plate of sweet rolls. Luna's wings twitched against her sides with each exhale and inhale. Poor Luna tried so hard to be awake during the day, but she could be downright narcoleptic while the sun was shining. Luna's ethereal mane drifted in and out of her water glass, and a tiny, twinkling star caused Luna's drink to glitter like a glassful of diamonds. Luna was happy. She was happier now in general. Ponies had come to enjoy her night, Luna's loneliness had been eased, and Celestia had discovered that her sister was downright joyous to find out that Celestia was dating. A half-drank cup of coffee steamed near Luna's head, a cup that would never be finished. While Luna had been awake, she had offered a little helpful advice. Celestia had endured a gentle scolding from Luna on the age issue. If it hadn't been his age, Celestia had admitted to her sister that she would have found something else to focus upon, some reason to try and back out. Celestia now understood why Cadance chose anonymity. Had Celestia found some other detail to focus upon, she might have also used that as an excuse or as a reason to try and escape this. Luna had somehow restored some of Celestia's confidence. She had a way of doing that. Luna, who had a fragile confidence of her own, somehow always knew just what to say or just what to do. Luna knew how to fix things and make them right. Celestia was feeling far more confident for this date. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. She did her best to ignore her tense muscles and the fact that the space beneath her wings felt like furnaces. She tried to ignore the hint of a headache that throbbed at the base of her skull, the dull thudding sensation resonating through her head and making her hesitant to blink her own eyelids out of the fear of upsetting the lurking beast. Alone, with nobody to talk to at the moment, Celestia's mind slipped into the past. Long ago, she had been the outgoing one. She had friends that she now missed a great deal. She had everything. She went to balls, parties, events of great importance, many of which were held in her honor. It was her popularity and her outgoing nature that had been the source of Luna's jealousy, but Celestia had not paid attention. She continued to be a social butterfly, flitting from event to event. She was always the belle of the ball. But after Luna's stumble, Celestia blinked and tried to force the melancholy thoughts from her mind. Those had been dark times indeed. She had retreated, withdrawn. Luna was all alone on the moon and Celestia had been all alone in Canterlot. She had punished herself for her failure, an issue that Celestia still had trouble with even now, an issue that still needed sorting out, but Celestia could not seem to find a way to deal with it. Reaching over the table with a wing, Celestia touched her sister's cheek, which was sticky and had a raisin clinging to it. There were only a few hours left to wait. The night air was cool against her feverish body and a strong breeze tickled her wings. Tonight's date was held in a garden, but Celestia did not know which one. She had been blindfolded before even going into the carriage. The air was perfumed with flowers and the strong scent tickled her nose. Knowing that she could not be seen or heard, she spread her wings and allowed for a cooling breeze to travel beneath them. She was led along a gravel path for a time and then she noticed the cool grass beneath her frogs. She struggled not to giggle as she felt the grass prickling against the tender flesh of her frogs. Celestia wore shoes for practical reasons. She was ticklish and most ponies did not know this. Her hoofwear was practical and protected her from suddenly having the giggles at the most inopportune moments, such as walking over deep pile shag red carpets. Shining armor said nothing as they walked and it was almost as if she was being led along by a ghost. Celestia's nervousness became a feeling of giddiness, and then, to make matters worse, she thought about the things Cadance had said about both her and Shining armor. Unable to stop herself, Celestia began to titter as she was led along. There was a gentle push upon her backside and she eased herself down into the grass while trying not to snort or giggle. The world went silent and she couldn't even hear the sounds of Shining armor's hooves upon the grass as he departed. Hello again, a warm flush crept up Celestia's neck. Well, hello there. You sound a bit better tonight. Celestia marveled at how much more relaxed she felt. Her ears weren't straining to hear and she was rather relaxed, all things considered. She thought about the potential reveal and the thought didn't scare her as much as it did earlier. I feel better tonight, Celestia replied. Cadance and I had a long talk earlier today and I sorted a few things out. Last night was really good for me and I made progress in my treatment plan. I'm in a great mood. I'm really glad to hear that. And Celestia was, in fact, glad to hear that. She wasn't just making small talk, her words were sincere. She eased herself down into the grass a little more, going from a sitting position to a laying position, and she crossed her forelegs over one another. She drew in a deep breath and tried to figure out what sort of flowers she was smelling. The scent was a distraction, but it was a good distraction. Something about the smell put her in a romantic mood. Wishing to banish the silence, Celestia took the initiative. I know you have a treatment plan, and I know that you don't know what to do as far as school, but do you have any plans or desires for yourself? After a moment's wait, there came a reply. I want to start a family. Even though I was hurt, it is still something I want. Being hurt hasn't changed that. I want to be a father, well, in time. After our talk last night, I've decided that I am going to go back to school as soon as I can and I'm going to be a history major. After hearing what you said, I guess I kind of found my confidence. Celestia found herself smiling as she listened. And why do you wish to be a father at such a young age? I never knew my father. There was a long silence and somewhere off in the distance, faint music could be heard. My mother was a single mother and she was the most amazing mother ever. But things were hard for us even though she tried really hard. She had to drop out of school to have me and take care of me. But she made it work. I want to be a dad, because I think it will make me feel better and I want my mother to be proud of me. I really care about what my mother thinks about me and I want her to be proud of me. I kind of disappointed her by dropping out of school, but after things have cooled off, she has admitted that it was necessary. I was in a really toxic situation and it was hurting my mental health. You can always get back into school and make your mother proud. Celestia, still smiling, began to fan herself with her wing, trying to make a little breeze to cool her flustered features. And I would be as well. With you as my potential suitor, I must confess, I have certain standards. Oh really? Really? Celestia found herself nodding even though she could not be seen. I have standards too. Do you now? Celestia, grinning, was intrigued. I want to marry young and I don't want to get involved with anypony unless they are willing to entertain the idea of marriage. Oh, that was intriguing. Why is that? Well, there was a pause and then a chuckle. I tell my mom and anypony that asks that it is because I want to do the right thing and do right by my traditionalist values, but from a practical standpoint, I have certain needs that I have trouble ignoring and do not wish to stumble. I want to hold true to what I believe in, but it is growing increasingly difficult to do. I'm young and I have all of the vigor of youth. That is very honest of you to admit that, Celestia said to her date. I'm pent up. Hearing those words, Celestia's mouth went dry and she felt her jaw clench. I'm pent up and I'm so scared of letting myself down. I don't want to compromise my values. Both my therapist and Cadance both say that I need to be patient, hold on, and wait until I find somepony that shares my values. Cadance says that when I do, she'll be pent up too from all the waiting and everything will be worth the wait. I have also been waiting. Celestia agonized over what to say next, how much to reveal, and if Cadance would step in before too much was revealed. While there was some tension, Celestia felt rather relaxed, all things considered. I know you've been married before, Cadance told me, and she said you were just a little bit older than me. I don't mind, I know stuff happens. Ponies die and divorces happen. I'm okay with whatever took place. Something about the colt's words endeared him to Celestia, but she could not say why. Her curiosity grew and she began to wonder what he looked like. As she sat there, wondering what to say and listening for more precious words, she realized that she was smelling gardenias and magnolias. The air was heavy with their scent. The grass was cool against her stomach and her most sensitive, ticklish places that had gone far too long without a proper tickle. "Do you enjoy being in the guard at all?" Celestia asked. It took a moment, but there was a reply. "I go back and forth. There are times when I don't like it, but there are times when it is great. I was smart enough to get into the Signal Corps, so I don't have to worry about the really rough, hard stuff. I'm a pencil pusher." The Signal Corps is jokingly referred to as the chair force. "I've learned a lot about communications and I've been taking courses in both command and public speaking. My commanding officer says that if I go to university, I could stay in the guard and become an officer. I don't know if I'll do that, but I might. I just don't know yet. I have some experience in command," Celestia said in a low voice. "I hold rank in the guard, but I have stepped down from active duty." "So, you deal in futures, securities, energy management, and you've been in the service." "I'll admit, I'm perplexed. I know you are being honest with me, Cadance wouldn't allow you to lie, but for the life of me, I can't make out how you've done so much. All I know is, I am way out of my league and I can't wait to get to know you better." Celestia giggled and had trouble stopping. "A mare has to have hobbies. I like to try and remain in a constant state of self-improvement. I read when I can get the chance. I remain permanently enrolled in Canterlot University. They don't tell you this, but if you get the lifetime learning plan and have at least one pony who has the lifetime learning plan recommend you, it is quite cheap. You could afford it on your guard scholarship, however, you'd need to come up with a little bit of extra funding. But they don't advertise it at all. Could you endorse me?" Celestia's date asked without a moment's hesitation. "Oh, I could see myself doing that," Celestia replied. "We could go to classes together. I find intellectual pursuits stimulating." "Really? You would go to classes with me?" "Oh, certainly." Celestia felt a growing excitement. This wasn't quite planning out a future together, but this was nice and it filled her with a sense of hope. "When we get to know each other better, you will come to understand why any potential mates of mine have to be driven to live up to their full potential. If we were to stay together, I cannot promise it would be an easy life for you. Much will be expected." "Oh, I understand. I have expectations too." "Do tell," Celestia said in the most inviting manner she could muster with her artificial voice. "I want foals. Like I said, I want to be a father. And I want the mare I marry to be a good mother, but not just any mother. She has to be a teacher. She has to instill a sense of values. She has to be a good moral guide because everything good about a pony begins at home and it typically starts with what a mother teaches her foals. Take my mom for example, she knows that she made some mistakes when she was younger, but she owned up to them. She used them to teach me about why I had to be responsible, to be good, and to strive to do the right thing whenever possible. She's really special and I love her so much." "So you really are serious about starting a family, I take it?" Celestia felt a growing sense of annoyance with her blindfold. She wanted to take it off. She wanted to feel a cool breeze upon her face. She wanted to see the pony she was speaking to. "I once read that colts that grow up with single mothers statistically become bad fathers themselves and have foals out of wedlock. I want to prove that I can beat those odds." There were worse goals in life. Celestia considered her date. He was motivated, he was smart, and she found herself liking him. "I have to prove that I can do things right. I have to prove that all the hard work my mother did was worth it. Everything we went through together, all of the sacrifices she made, how she suffered, I want her to know that everything she did wasn't in vain. Celestia said nothing, but those were some noble goals and aspirations she could get behind. She understood, and could appreciate what the colt was doing. That's why I send my mother most of my pay. I don't have to do it, but she worked so many jobs and spent so many hours working so hard to care for me. Now, she doesn't have to work. I send her enough money to pay the rent and be comfortable, and she can finally take a well-deserved break. Now that I've made up my mind about going back to school, I plan to have a career that will allow me to take care of her. She's very special to me and I owe her so much. I understand what it means to give yourself over completely so that the needs of others can be looked after. Celestia took a deep breath. I have a lot of ponies that I look after and take care of. I suppose you could call them family. I'll confess, I see myself as their mother and I give of myself as much as I can to make sure that their needs are provided for. Celestia thought of her school, her subjects, and of Equestria. She could say nothing of the scope or the scale of the ponies she mothered. Who takes care of you? Celestia turned her head in the direction from where she heard her date speaking. She tried to reply, but no words came out. She felt a shudder go through her as her barrel began hitching. She struggled to hold herself together, and after several long moments of labored breathing, she made the shudder subside. Somepony takes care of you, that's awful. That's not entirely true. There are those who care for me. I suppose I'm stubborn though, and I try to mother them as well. I don't really let them care for me and I resist if they try. It's hard to stop being the caretaker after you've done it for so long. Celestia began to wonder what sort of consequences there might be if she pulled off her blindfold. Not that she would never disrespect Cadance in such a manner, but she could not help but wonder. While anonymity had its charms, Celestia wanted to see the face of the pony she was speaking with. She wanted to look into his eyes. She wanted to hear his voice. Celestia found herself a bit infatuated. As strange as it might seem, she couldn't deny it. No doubt, Cadance already knew all about it and Celestia would get an earful. She was looking forward to that earful because she wanted to praise Cadance for all of her hard work. As she lay in the grass, the strong, heady scent of magnolia blossoms and gardenias tickling her nose, Celestia began to contemplate what it might be like to be in love. She began to wonder what a life together might be like. She began to be curious and open to the possibility of romance. It got quiet, the colt said. I was thinking about getting to know you better, Celestia replied. I must confess, I find you intriguing. You have my interest as well, the colt confessed. You know, the silences are far more noticeable when you are blindfolded. There's nothing to look at and nothing else to do, and talking keeps away the boredom. I'm so scared, Celestia blurted out, and she was certain that if she had her real voice it would be cracking. I want you to know who I am, but I am so frightened that when you see me, any chances of us being together will be dashed upon the rocks. I'm scared too, the colt replied. I don't want to be a disappointment. I'm young and by the sounds of things, you're a bit more mature than I am. I'm not sure what to make of that, but I'm worried that you'll see me and you'll think I'm too young, and I really like talking to you and it is so easy to talk to you and I don't want to ruin what we already have. There is only one way we will know if this will work. Celestia felt a growing lump in her throat as she spoke, and once again, her frogs were becoming sweaty. I don't know if it is fair to keep this going, to keep our identities hidden. The more I think about it, the more I realize that it isn't fair to you to not know who you are dealing with. Lips still moving, it took Celestia a moment to realize that she had been silenced. She hadn't actually said anything and she wondered if Cadance was angry. Her ears drooped and she hoped that she could earn Cadance's forgiveness. Before I say anything else, I am not angry, Cadance said in a low voice from some distance. But I do think a good point was made. The two of you seem to be comfortable with one another. Both of you are strong, exceptional individuals. Would you like the blindfolds removed? There was silence. The dead silence worried Celestia. Under her blindfold, her face felt hot and flushed. She felt a dreadful fear that matched the terror she had felt when she had heard Luna's mad laughter over 1,000 winters ago. It was ridiculous and absurd, but she could not deny it. When the blindfold came off, there was no way of knowing what would happen next. "I'll do it," the colt said. "I'm sick of being afraid. I want to know and I want to see." Unable to speak, but not because of the silence spell, Celestia nodded, knowing that Cadance would see. She waited, not knowing what was about to happen, and she waited to have her blindfold removed. "I think the two of you are ready to be introduced. Gosling, prepare yourself for a bit of a shock," Cadance said in a firm voice of command. "I am going to introduce you to my aunt." Celestia felt a tug upon her blindfold.